I'm sure many others before me have said it, but I'll regurgitate. There is nothing out there quite like Metroid. Since its debut in 1986, it's been a very important part of gaming culture and identity. It has so very much to offer that not a lot of people see initially, but once they do, it becomes clear that it's something that cannot be easily imitated. But there is just one thing that, as a huge horror fan, I would love to touch on, that being the terror present in one of my favorite Metroid games, Metroid Fusion. While Metroid has always leaned more into what most people consider unnerving and or dreadful, especially when compared to other Nintendo IPs, Fusion was its biggest step into horror since the start of the series. It utilized many different elements to make its impact that much more undeniable, from its music, atmosphere, story, and even new, terrifying organisms. Horror is an important part of the game's character, and I'd love to go into the what, how, and why that is. Oh, and by the way, I'm Nana, welcome to my tomb. I hope you'll enjoy your time here. I know everyone's already talked about Fusion to death, but it's a game I love so very much, not just for its enjoyable gameplay, but for the horror it offers. It's unlike many things I've seen thus far, maybe except for Alien, and yes, that's a shameless plug, go watch my Alien x Metroid video. Fusion is an absolute masterpiece when it comes to horror, and I'm excited to show you why, so let's get started. Let's start with its story, shall we? Metroid Fusion starts off with a hauntingly beautiful cutscene of Samus sitting idly in her spaceship, teetering dangerously close to an asteroid belt until she inevitably smashes into it. It's evident that she's not dead, but the circumstances that led her here are unknown for now. It's not until officially starting the game via save file that we get to see what happened to her prior to the incident. With amazing visuals backed up by dialogue from a now very vocal Samus, the events go as follows. Samus takes on the task of escorting a biologic research team as they travel to SR-388 to investigate. It's there that they find a disturbing-looking creature that Samus makes quick work of, but transforms into a gelatinous-like creature, one that works its way into her suit. Due to the lack of knowledge on the creature, all is well for now, and Samus returns to her ship when she's rendered unconscious by the parasitic organism called the X. Luckily, her emergency escape pod gets her out before impact. The biologic research team recover her and take her to the Galactic Federation HQ. Due to the rather quick and aggressive infestation of the X affecting her central nervous system, some of Samus' power suit and its biocomponents need to be surgically removed. Here, the translation varies, and a lot of people think her suit is fused with her body, but that's not the case. Her suit is connected to her biologically, yes, but she can take it off instantly whenever she pleases, almost like if a snake had a way to shed its skin and instantly put it back on. But she's the only one who can take it off unless it's forced off of her, hence pieces of it needing to be removed when she's unconscious and unable to do it herself. Anyway, even with the immediate problem out of the way, her central nervous system is still compromised, and she needs to be administered a vaccine, in the form of the cells/DNA from the infant Metroid, or what most people know it as, the baby. Here's the interesting part though. While Samus is unconscious, the biologic research team sent the infected pieces of her suit still containing the parasite that nearly killed her to the Biologic Research Lab, or BSL, where there are hundreds of live creatures there ready to be taken advantage of just like Samus. I'll go into it in a lot more detail soon enough, but X-parasites are extremely dangerous and live to reproduce as much as possible, infecting hosts and assuming their form, which kills the host. Probably for the best. It's almost impossible to stop, and it attacking Samus and leaving her at the mercy of others to save her is already a sign no one or nothing will survive if they come into contact with it. So yeah, sending her suit caked in X-parasite baby batter to the BSL is not a great idea, let's just say that. To no one's surprise, it's there that a mysterious explosion is recorded, and when Samus wakes up, weak, lacking a fully healed suit, and probably still in pain, the Federation tasks her with investigating. They also have a computer watching over her, telling her what to do, where to go, etc. that Samus dubs Adam in her head, the name of her deceased CL, and father figure number 4. While at the BSL, we find the cause of the explosion, a dangerous X-parasite that is now mimicking Samus in her power suit, one cleverly called the SAX, or Sax if you're silly. This monstrous parasite is not only Samus at her strongest, but is also intentionally hunting you, so each encounter is deadly. Despite how horrifying and dreadful the presence of the SAX is, it is not the only worrisome development unfolding during the mission. There are many events that call into question the motivations of the Federation, such as them cloning Metroids and keeping important information from Samus. Even when the part of the space station that houses all the Metroids is detached and destroyed, you still have the more problematic and pressing X problem, one that develops into a catastrophe. Samus learns of the Federation's plans to come to the space station in order to capture the SAX. This is all with the intention of using the SAX for quote-unquote world peace, regardless of how dangerous trying to capture one would be, let alone use it. It's clear that they're planning to do something only Samus understands is insanely reckless, mirroring Mother Brain and the space pirates almost to a frightening degree. So, in an act of desperation, she wants to blow up the entire station while she's still in it, only to suddenly be halted by her computer, which locks all doors around her. After arguing back and forth with it, Samus accidentally calls the computer Adam aloud, and this causes the computer to gain some sort of sentience since the Federation clones the brains of high-ranking officers. I guess. With a wink and a nod, Adam basically tells Samus to just change the course of the station to crash into SR-388 and leave. That way she saves everyone and keeps her life. It's here that Samus has her final showdown with the SAX, with it mutating into a grotesque monster, and when it returns to its gelatinous form, it flees. Samus is able to set up the sequence, but when she goes back to the docking bay, her ship is gone. It's eerily quiet until an Omega Metroid appears before her and slaps the snot out of her, almost killing her instantly. The SAX she fought before steps in to help, due to Metroid's being its natural enemy, and is also killed, but Samus is able to absorb it and regain her power suit. It's here that she defeats the Omega Metroid and her ship comes back, being piloted by Adam and some small creatures that she saved in Super Metroid. Then, with the quickness, she escapes the BSL right before it smashes into SR-388, and her mission is complete, all with the ambiguous ending of her possibly facing consequences for what she did, depending on the version of the game you play. The story is Metroid in its prime. Get it? I know, I'm terrible. Anyway, TLDR, the X, especially the SAX, are bad. The Federation wants to use them as weapons. That's not a good idea. Samus stops them, but not before seeing unforgettable horrors. Alright, we can finally get to the good stuff. One of the scariest things about Fusion, in my opinion, is the realistic domino effect made by Samus' decisions both in this title and previous ones. She hunts down and kills almost every single Metroid in Samus Returns, leading to a terrible imbalance in the food chain on SR-388 that came with dire consequences. Now that the Metroids aren't available to hunt the X, they rise up, and upon going back to SR-388, immediately infect Samus and almost kill her. This is all due to a bad choice she made, simply thinking she was saving the galaxy. Something else unsettling to think about would also be Samus' mercy on the baby Metroid, something she wasn't supposed to do, saving her life not once, not twice, but 3 times. Maybe 4 if you count the End of Dread. At the end of AM2R, which is a fan game I know, but hear me out, the crystals that the baby Metroid eats through are revealed to be X-Parasites in disguise. If Samus didn't have the baby with her, it could be inferred that the X-Parasite would have infected her before she could make it back to her ship, and without the baby Metroid cells to make a vaccine, this would be fatal. Then, during Samus' fight against Mother Brain at the end of Super, the baby Metroid sacrifices itself to save her life. It's unknown if Samus and Mother Brain would have had a confrontation like this if the baby wasn't present, but we know for a fact she would have died without it. Then, of course, the baby's cells save her life in Fusion via vaccine, which is why the game is even able to happen in the first place. It's terrifying to think that, if Samus had killed that baby Metroid, if her natural instincts overrode her empathy, she'd be dead before Fusion even started. No amount of strength or the abilities she had would be able to overcome the X-Parasites or Mother Brain, emphasizing that even at her strongest, sometimes it truly is hopeless. From the beginning of the game, Samus is insanely weakened and essentially being babysat by a computer the entire time she's on the BSL. She's no longer able to do what she wants when she wants to, and also isn't being told the whole story of why she's on the BSL to begin with. The gameplay is tied into the narrative, as it regularly puts you, the player, through hell. If you played every previous Metroid game before this one, I think this one would be the second or third hardest in terms of difficulty. After playing Zero Mission and Dread years ago, I immediately moved on to Fusion, not having finished the game a year prior, and as soon as I started playing the game, I had one question. Did enemies always hit this hard? It felt like I barely died in Zero Mission, and maybe I died a lot during Dread's bosses, but in Fusion, I had regular Joes almost one-tapping me. It wasn't just the bosses that gave me a bit of a hard time. Casual enemies just hanging out in the open would hit me once or twice, and I'd be near death. Honestly, it was kind of fun having to fight for my life, but the implications are not so fun. Samus is always stripped of her abilities for a good portion of the game, making her feel weak until you get certain power-ups and upgrades. In Fusion, you feel weak for a majority of it. Not even when you get strong abilities and upgrade your energy tanks as much as you can does it feel like you can properly breathe. Being nimble and staying alert is much more essential to maintaining your life in this game than others, and with the SAX on the prowl, I'm not gonna lie, shit gets serious. Speaking of which, my overall favorite part about Fusion and the horror it has to offer is the X, and how it's symbolic of every mission Samus has been on thus far. Her natural predator is a horrifying clone of herself called the SAX, an X-parasite that mimics her and her suit, and is unfortunately equipped with weapons the US government could only dream of having. Actually, it probably already does. The SAX is Samus at her most capable, and has much more agency than her, blasting through walls while she's stuck taking orders from a computer. She loses her independence and is treated like a pawn as she's chased up and down the BSL by, well, herself. Ironically, the SAX treats her much like how she treated the Metroids back in Samus Returns. She hunted these creatures to near extinction, and despite them being dangerous, they weren't the evil, conniving objects of destruction that Samus or the Federation thought they were, at least when you leave villains like Ridley, Mother Brain, and Ravenbeak out of it. Samus hunts them down without question, leaves a baby alive, and that baby dies protecting her. Wow, that sounds really fucked up. Now, there are no more Metroids. As said before, Samus royally screwed up the food chain designed by the Trizodians, which in turn brought the X-parasites to power, aka the real threat to the galaxy. While the X are intelligent and live to mimic/kill as much as possible, Metroids only act on instinct and act much more like animals than an aware, intelligent species. With her current suit, she's just as helpless as the Metroid she killed, even taking on their vulnerability to ice due to the DNA she received. I really like the symbolism in the game, and though Samus isn't at her peak anymore, I think she gets some real development because of this. Due to her unempathetic and parasitic clone, she now understands all too well what it's like to be hunted by something considerably stronger and beyond resourced. Samus, and the player by extension, are finally forced to face what they've been putting weak aliens through in favor of receiving health and ammo. The SAX is so imposing and is quite literally the scariest thing witnessed in any Metroid game. Maybe after the Emmy, they can duke it out. There's nothing scarier than a parasitic version of yourself at your most powerful, trying to kill you when you're at your absolute weakest. The SAX appears multiple times throughout the game, but you're never meant to fight it until the very end. It's always heavily emphasized that you need to escape from it, because upon seeing you, it will try to kill you. On your first run, the possibility of an SAX getting the jump on you may become all too much to bear. Sure, the sequences are scripted, but if it's your first time playing, you never know where it's gonna pop up. And you sure as hell don't want it to pop up in an area you're unfamiliar with, especially with this music playing. The game may not reach dread levels of, well, dread, but it gets pretty damn close just from the existence of the SAX alone. And more than them hunting you, their biology is absolutely terrifying as well. The X-parasites in general are quite literally the scariest organisms in Metroid, even beating the Metroids themselves in a series named after them. As stated before, while Metroids are more or less animalistic, X-parasites are capable of intelligence and are hell-bent on reproduction at the expense of entire planets. I stated this almost word for word in my Alien X Metroid video, but this is what they typically do in a few easy steps. 1. Infect the organism's nervous system and use the body as a base to reproduce asexually and exponentially. The host's soft tissue is consumed within seconds and they are killed. It's during this process that they absorb the DNA and memories of the host, allowing replication. 2. Mimic the host, either with a striking resemblance or with some disgusting alterations. 3. Spread with devastating speed, rinse and repeat. Now, I might repeat a little here, so bear with me. X-parasites can fit into the tiniest of crevices, making it range from hard to impossible to get away from them. Organisms infected by them are typically reduced to corpses or mere nothingness in moments, as all it takes is physical contact. Even organisms, in their entirety or otherwise, dead before an X encounters it, can have its DNA used for nefarious purposes. And as said before, X-parasites retain the memories and knowledge of their host. This means they can gain access to government secrets, passwords, nuclear codes, knowledge on how to pilot ships, what planet has the most suitable hosts, etc. There's no end to the terror they could bring about if given the chance. They've also been known to hide themselves amongst crowds of regular organisms and bide their time in order to gain access to as many potential hosts as possible. X-parasites are extremely aggressive and seem hell-bent on gaining access to the rest of the galaxy, which would most certainly doom it. If they find the right humans with enough power or knowledge to infect, such as the Federation who plans to come to the BSL station, their goals could be easily met. Hell, just them infecting Samus was enough for a situation to go from bad to almost completely unmitigable. And though not all the X-parasites have become SAXs, they have the potential to, which is terrifying enough. This also makes me believe that there is something to dread other than just immediate death in Metroid Fusion. Samus was caught off guard by the SAX, had her DNA used against her, and went through hell trying to save the galaxy. X-parasites are already very dangerous, but the SAX poses a unique risk due to its intelligence and superior abilities. It can be inferred that if Samus hadn't been infected, the galaxy wouldn't have been in peril, at least not immediately. And, unfortunately, the SAX is not the only thing to be worried about either. In Samus's case, even with an immunity to their infection, there's a chance of her being killed by any number of dangerous hosts it's taken the DNA of, such as the horrific nightmare and the uncanny Yakuza. Even the strongest of organisms fall victim to it, all except the Metroid, and they're all extinct unless you count Samus. Even when defeated, they prove to be dangerously stubborn. Once beaten in the form they're currently mimicking, they go into a cytoplasmic form and then try to gain access to the bodies of the organism that defeated it in order to get stronger and more resistant. And if that doesn't demonstrate just how horrifying and invasive they are, an entire planet was destroyed just to get rid of them. Also, this is off script, but what happens to the solar systems after Samus, destroys a planet? Seems like it would kind of fuck it over, right? Anyway, X-parasites are insanely dangerous, and it's no wonder multiple forces work to eradicate them, including Samus who nearly died because of them. The only reason she even survived is because it didn't affect her nervous system until she'd entered her ship. X-parasites are often seen infecting and killing hosts in seconds, so, in short, her survival was either due to some resistance to it, possibly due to her suit, or pure luck. Even her ability to survive in the end is simply good fortune, as she stood virtually no chance against the Omega Metroid without the SAX stepping in out of biological obligation. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. I actually have more to say, even though I'm more than halfway through with editing. I went over the SAX being biologically stronger than Samus for most of the game, but I neglected to mention something. Abilities, circumstance, and environment. I'll talk a lot more about the setting of Fusion momentarily, but the real terror of the SAX lies in these three key things. Walk with me. The SAX is essentially a brick wall, one that you don't dare fight because it's a losing battle, but the pure desperation and adrenaline to get away or even fight back in a desperate attempt to survive increases that much more. There's nothing to hide you once you've been spotted due to the claustrophobia of the BSL, no invisibility cloak or anything else to help you hide yourself. You can't run forever. You may be able to be touched by the SAX without dying, but there is no escaping it. X is a variable, something with infinite possibilities. The SAX is a step above it. It always knows where you are once it's taken chase, and you can escape, but for how long? And when will it appear next? Will it adapt to you as you've adapted to it? Does it have the ability to team up with other X-parasites to kill you? Is there a feasible way that it can add another organism's abilities to your arsenal, something that you aren't prepared for? Can it possibly hide or blend into an environment to get the jump on you? If we remember that Samus has military training and is reasonably intelligent, the SAX becomes less alien and more human, though it has no solar conscience. Which is horrifying, but cynically speaking, I guess some humans are just like that as well. Many tactics are taught in the military that most would find unbelievable, but are excellent for getting results. Also, I'm gonna be blunt. Samus is scary as fuck, okay? I know we spend a lot of time admiring her beauty, but beauty and the ability to rip someone's ass off their body are not mutually exclusive things. She herself is a dangerous lady. No one can do what she does, and that makes her situation in Fusion so much more dreadful. Knowing that a stronger version of yourself can pull whatever is taken from the crevices of your mind and use it against you is surely a terrible feeling like no other. I personally believe that the uncertainty of it all is much more terrifying than the alternative. If you could win, how long would it take? How hard would it be? What dirty tricks will the SAX use in a moment of surprise or desperation? Would it be a fruitless venture, knowing that there are no less than 10 other SAXs aboard the BSL? You need to confront it, a constant reminder that you are not alone even in the safest of places. You must face it, once and for all, but who knows if you'll succeed. It's a truly humbling experience, one more raw and disturbing than anything before it, and anything after it for over a decade. It's truly special, and something one has to experience for themselves. Now with that out of the way, there's just one more thing I'd like to touch on, something that every Metroid game has but is maybe a lot more present in Fusion. That being the horrific beauty and the true isolation and loneliness the game offers. To put it bluntly, everyone and everything is against you. Not even the people who sent you to the mission are those you can trust. Saying your environment is perilous is a grave understatement, a sentiment that becomes clearer the longer you're on the BSL. There are many points in the game where you feel lonely but at the same time surveilled, dreading what could happen but also wishing it would just happen already. The game does a great job at establishing how the player should feel in such a beautiful way, and it's something that is better appreciated with time. Every sector on the BSL that you travel to has its own habitats, types of creatures, and environmental hazards to watch out for. There's nearly a highly destructive meltdown in one, an X-covered parasite able to hurt you before you have your next suit in another. Each sector brings with them their own sense of overwhelming risk, making for an experience that never feels dangerous in just one manner. Sector 4 is a sector you may think is innocent because of how pretty it looks until X-space pirates start surrounding you, and you come to recognize there truly is no refuge anywhere. Almost every single area, even the rooms housing your next upgrade, is hazardous at best, and like I said before, everything is scripted, but that doesn't take too much of the dread factor away. For much of the game, except your wordy encounters with Adam, you're utterly alone and expected to achieve so much in so little time, with dire consequences in place if you make mistakes. In previous Metroid titles, you were also alone, if not more alone than in Fusion, but the feeling of being aboard the BSL, somewhere both large and small in size, it's hard to describe in the best possible way. Somewhere smaller than many of the places you've been to before, and still just as mysterious and unknown in presentation. That's a feeling not easily imitated. And Fusion, in my opinion, does it very well for a game that came out in 2002. It may not be perfect, as better technology could take the game to heights never seen, but I love it just the way it is. And I believe that's all I have to say. It's been a while since I made a Metroid video. Fun fact, much of this script is taken from a scrapped Fusion video I was supposed to do 2 years ago. I changed a lot of it, of course, since I like to think I've improved as a writer, but the love I felt for the game 2 years ago is like the love I feel for it now. It'll never die. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, like, sub, leave your thoughts below, and consider joining my Discord server. I'd love to talk your ear off about Metroid and other games. This is Nana, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Peace!